All right. Hi, I'm Cassidy Phillips, VP of Networking Solutions Architecture at Imagine Communications. And I'm lucky enough to be joined by Scott Heitman from Chase Arena and Golden State Warriors. Scott, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us what you do.
Hey, Cassidy. Thanks so much for having me on here. As you said, I'm the Director of Scoreboard Operations for the Golden State Warriors. I've been privileged to be in this role since February of 2019, and at that time, Chase Center was a construction site. So it's been a heck of a year of getting not only an arena built, NBA season started, kicked off, numerous concerts, events, and then everything leading up to March when things suddenly stopped, and now we are working from home, and here we are. So quite a year it's been.
Yeah, it's a lot of changes in a short period of time. So
Yes.
I actually was involved with the design of what became your 2110 IP production system. And I can remember my earliest conversations with you. You always had this notepad and you were always going through a task list of all the things that you were concerned about and everything you wanted to learn about going into this new world, because your background is not IP production, right? You come from baseband and SDI
Correct.
and other things,
Yeah,
not 2110.
Yeah, I've been in sports video production for a long time. I helped launch the Pac-12 networks, and always been on the production side of it, some of the engineering side of it, the technology that goes along with live sports and productions. So my knowledge of IP video, aside from some webinars and just kind of dipping my feet into it, has been pretty limited. So I think that was one of my main concerns, going into this. Do I need some sort of specialized education in packetized video? Do I need to be an IP administrator in order to understand how the router is supposed to work and function? And thankfully, all those fears weren't necessary, because from an operator side of this, it's been really seamless. We treat it like any other piece of broadcast production equipment. We don't need specialized technicians to scroll through lines of code or switch configurations to get it to work. There's an easy interface, and we are able to configure the router the way that we want to use it.
Yeah, so I remember, it's always interesting when you have a new building going up at the same time as you're trying to put together some new type of technology broadcast system. I've been involved with a few of these, and it always ends up being kind of a neck and neck between the physical facility and getting the system to where you can actually train on it, for example. So you guys were doing a certain amount of learning those interfaces that you're talking about on the job for preseason events and things like that. But, talk a little bit about, your staff comes from, again, that baseband world, or maybe they even go work in other facilities that are not a 2110 system. How long do you think it took for you guys to come up to speed and just run the games?
Well, I think for our full-time staff, my crew that we use for the scoreboard operations, we were there as part of the building process, and we're working alongside with the vendors and the system integrators, and there was plenty of training opportunities in that process. But then everything really ramped up once we started having live events, and we were bringing in freelance crew members and part-time operators. And that's where we really saw that it really wasn't any different than what they're used to. We have operators that work in various venues around town, some from the production trucks, and it's really been simple for them to come in. They know how a router is supposed to function. You've got your source, your destination, and you hit take, and they recognize that on the router panel. So it's no different. I have a feeling most of the operators that come in to work at our facility aren't aware that they're actually working with an IP-based infrastructure. It's that simple.
Yeah, that's a great point. So your system is around a 256 by 256 3G 1080p system, and if someone were to walk in there and operate without knowing, as you say, what they're running, they might walk into those rack rooms and wonder, where's the big heavy iron router frame that holds that 256 by 256. And the reality for you guys is you really have a 2-rack unit Arista switch that is maybe a third of the way populated, and you have a lot of 2110 native devices, and of course you have some of our own Imagine Selenium network processor to do the connections to the truck or deal with up-down cross conversion, or if there is gateway. But the system has a very small footprint for what it does. And you guys have all that headroom to move into, say, HDR or UHD or high frame rate if it comes up. So it's a totally different physical architecture from what those people who come into the room might expect behind the scenes.
Right, and that's exactly what we were going for when the system was designed and put together. We wanted to be able to expand. We didn't want to be locked down to one particular model or way of doing things. We wanted to know that, hey, if down the road, you know, we've got 4K HDR, we can easily just adapt to those changes in technology as they come to life. And we wouldn't have to, you know, change out our entire control room infrastructure for the router. It's not a forklift operation. It's just adjusting our workflow, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, in the case of HDR, I think much of your equipment, you would just be hitting a toggle switch, basically, and then making the creative adjustments you wanted to within those color spaces. And then for UHD and high frame rate, it would be introducing those devices or doing the up-down cross conversion directly to the switch that you already have. It's a very flexible core. So obviously we're all excited to see live sports come back, and I know you guys have still been doing some things. What can you do now with your team, with your system, not just from the 2110 perspective, but from kind of that IT interface perspective to still support events even now?
Well, a lot of this has been this added flexibility in working in an IP infrastructure, especially working from home, is being able to reach out to the system and using the soft panel interfaces. We can make any of our routes that we need to do. We can call up any of our confidence cameras so we can actually see what's happening in the arena. So for some of the smaller productions that have been taking place now, it's been pretty quiet in the arena since March, but you know, if they wanted to do a photo shoot, or for example, we have numerous outdoor displays on the Thrive City, which is the campus that the Chase Center sits on, and we operate those outdoor displays, and being able to reach out there and quickly change routes and provide playlist functionality to those locations has really been helpful. And like I said, being able to see those feeds coming back to us through our confidence cameras, which we can route to anywhere else that we need within the facility, has really helped us in this time of shelter in place, work from home scenario, to be able to stay engaged with the public, with the people who are on site. Also engaged with our essential workers that are in the arena. And you know, like when the NBA season resumed out of Orlando, we wanted to provide a thank you to our essential workers that are taking care of our beautiful facility. So we were able to route the game to our giant center hung display for them, and give them a sense of appreciation for going into work every day on our behalf. So being able to make those changes from home has really been helpful.
So yeah, I mean, that's great. And that it's really the flexibility that you guys have now with kind of this IT and IP mixing in with our broadcast media world, right? You're really leveraging the advantages of this new technology in this new system. So basically you were able to come up to speed quickly, go through those professional basketball games the way that you would expect, the way that your team expected things to operate. But then when things changed, you guys are now, I mean, how does that work? People just give you a call and say, hey, we need you to remote in and support this, or we're going to try to change something outside the arena?
Yeah, exactly. There'll be opportunities for us to have like I said, our exterior displays. We want to engage with people who are out there. There's numerous retail sites that are on our campus that are opening up, and be able to provide marketing information for that. Safety protocol information of what is recommended by guidelines to have up there on the display. The things that we hadn't necessarily planned for going into this has really been a useful tool to utilize those public displays and for marketing and partnerships.
So one of the things that's kind of funny is I know my team really hasn't received calls from you guys since the season started, but one of the cool capabilities of your system, in addition to just that general routing and production performance that you can access remotely, you guys can actually troubleshoot remotely as well, because you do have IP and IT-based scopes so that you could do things like diagnose a bad feed from a camera and route it where you needed to correct it, or even make the corrective route to get another device around it. So the power you guys have, even remotely from your home now, is really more than it would have been in the baseband world, at least for the level of access and remote production.
Correct. Yeah, we're able to route signals straight into our Prism, which we're able to access from home, being able to see those signals. If there's any kind of troubleshooting that needs to take place, if there's issues with the video signal, we can quickly diagnose those and know that what we're seeing on our side is actually representative of what's happening on a much larger display at the venue.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So with that, a little bit more on just the actual processing that happens in there, because that's part of my world. How many signals do you guys share back and forth when you do have sort of an external truck or something hooking up to you that you might have to fix during an event?
Sure. So we've got 12, what we consider 12 lines of interface between our control room and the truck dock. So we are able to use those in multiple directions. We can take camera feeds from them. They'll use camera feeds from us. We've got a lot of great POV cameras around the building, including up on our roof. So they're always excited to use some beautiful shots of the San Francisco Bay and the city skyline, and we're able to utilize a lot of their feeds from the television production truck to enhance our scoreboard show. And with that, we're able to interface easily with them through the SMPs. Like you said, we're a 1080p production, so whether the truck is 720, 1080i, those devices do the cross conversion for us. So we're able to basically take in and send back any flavor of video that they need.
Yeah, that's one of those things that's going to come up whether you're IP or baseband, right? I refer to it often as it's not just a media fabric, it's like a quilt of different media types that are being put together. So even in a 2110 world, you might have a mix of resolutions and frame rates, and so it's always good to have that easy capability to just fix something for your house format.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest advantages is utilizing the different streams. There's always been breakaway audio in production trucks, and this is just really provides a seamless format for that. So if we wanted to break out the audio or the metadata of a particular video feed, we are not using the entire 3G bandwidth to get just an audio stream to a device that only needs a single channel of audio. We're able to stack our audio specifically for our post-production department, our studio ops. They use our production video with 8 different channels of audio on it. So we'll have our program audio, we'll have the PA announcer isolated, we'll have the radio call, the TV call, all that gets recorded, and then the post-ops, they can utilize those however they need. It's really easy to manipulate that so everybody can kind of get just the parts of the recording that are applicable to them.
Right. Yeah, to have that flexibility, and especially in an uncompressed space where it really can be destination source take, it's going to happen very quickly. The switch is going to happen the same way you would expect it to in a baseband world or a legacy system, and it's going to be allowing you the creative flexibility that you need for whatever post-production, or say you have to correct something in the moment, and that entire media fabric acts like one big cross point. You guys have access to every source in the system, and you can route it anywhere you need it to go.
Right.
So it's a very powerful tool in that way. Well, I'm glad to hear that you guys are doing well and that everything continues at the arena now. And we're going to check back in with you and see what's new periodically.
Sounds great. Yeah, we're excited to get back into action, whether that's games or concerts or any kind of public events. We're eager and ready to go.
Excellent. Well, thank you for joining, Scott, and thank you everyone for watching.
Thanks for having me, Cassidy.